All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start off with a cube. Let's actually get this out of the way and then maybe reduce this. All right, so I'm going to actually start off with a cube. I'm going to actually change my matte cap to a darker matte cap, this kind of matte cap. I like using this kind of matte cap. It's just nice on the eyes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add some interesting shapes to this. We're going to scale it, make it a little bit more of an interesting shape. And then I'm also going to add maybe a bevel, so Control B to add a bevel. And you can see we're already working with Ngons. There's no triangles in this on this face right here, so that's a little indication that we're already working with triangles, obviously, or excuse me, Ngons. All right, so I'm going to add a shade smooth by hitting Control F and going to shade smooth, and then we're going to go to auto smooth. What this is going to do is it's going to help you kind of like make your, it's going to split the vertices, and then it's going to make your faces a little bit more attractive, in my opinion. All right. So after that, we're going to add a bevel modifier to that, and I'm just going to set the distance of the bevel modifier to something like 0.01 and leave the limit method at angle and leave the angle at 30%. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to add a weighted normal to that to kind of just soften those bevels out a little bit, make them look like they're actually round when they're not. It's a little bit of an illusion. And then increase the weight to 100. And then we're pretty much done with that. We can just close out of that right now. And then I'm going to add some more interesting shapes to this. So let us actually go to the side, hit K, and add a line through that. And while that actually did not add a line through it, oh well. I forget how to add a line through it. I think it's like if you hit K and then Z, you can cut straight through it. No. Maybe they changed that. Wait, what does it say? Z to undo, shift, midpoint, ignore snapping. Cut through is C. That did not cut through. And that did, okay. SY0 to scale on the 0 axis. And I'm just going to bring that in. All right, let's go back into this mode. I'm going to grab these faces, deselect these faces, and then hit Control B to bevel that to give it a little bit of an extra kind of cool shape to it. And actually, I don't want to have that many segments. I just want 2 segments on that to give it a more interesting kind of look. Okay. And then what we can do is we can add a cut. So I'm just going to add a cut through here. All right. And maybe I also want to add like a segment through there as well. Add a couple of cuts through here. Control R to add cuts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a cut right here and maybe a cut at the top. These are important because these are going to actually keep the bevels away from these poles, which is important. I don't like the bevel modifier. The bevel modifier is working off an angle limit, and sometimes when you have a bevel edge that is getting too close to one of those poles, it tends to go really wonky. And I know that there's like methods that you could do to kind of change the mitering and all this other stuff, but I really don't like to mess with that. I just kind of it's easier for me to just add an edge in there and just be done with it. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to deselect these faces. Okay, and maybe this one as well. Yeah, and then dissolve those. So now we have this kind of middle edge going on in here. All right, we're going to hit Control B to bevel that. And I actually just want to push this down. All right. So now we have like kind of like an inset. But we're getting these weird kind of artifacty faces right here. This is because of what people like to refer to as a gee, what do they call it? It's a I forget the name of it when like the vertices don't line up on a single face. The vertices don't. It's a manifold face. Sorry. I always forget the name of that, but it's called a manifold. Basically, what's happening is you have a one face, and then all the vertices are kind of bent out of shape, which causes the face's lighting to be weird, and the way it's displayed. So it causes a manifold, which is weird. So we're just going to add some cuts through that to make sure that we get rid of that. And then we're going to Control B to bevel these to make like a nice little interior. Okay, so now we have that. So one of the reasons why I dissolved the faces or dissolved the edges for this is because we're basically allowing Blender to triangulate the mesh for us. Some people say that's disgusting, horrible, how could you do that? But sometimes it's good for us to let the machine calculate it because it's not always going to be the greatest, but in this case it is allowing me to not have to worry so much about triangulating these faces. And it also keeps the vert count significantly lower because I don't have all of these cuts in between. And now Blender is now calculating the triangles for me, connecting all of this stuff. And you can see that we still have a beautiful mesh that's going on here. All right. So that's one of the perks of doing that. Okay. So we're just going to grab these faces right here and maybe, I don't know, add a little bit more interesting shape to that. Sometimes you are going to get some faces that are really weird and that you want to kind of, you know, fix. But I'm just going to add maybe another line in there. Do it at a time. Right now I'm kind of manually beveling that. So what it's doing is it's creating an angle for this face, these faces, and it's saying, okay, you no longer want me to bevel it, so you're going to bevel that instead. So that's essentially what I just did with that because it is having a little bit of a problem kind of figuring that out, and I think I'll actually do it to this as well, not to these. So hold Control, and that's going to give you your path selection. And then we're just going to manually bevel this ourselves. Okay, to get kind of like a hard edge in there. Okay, and then what I also want to do is I want to collapse these edges. So if you hit M, you can actually collapse these, and that's going to give you kind of like a bevel. And it's too soft of a bevel in my opinion, so I'm actually just going to leave it like that. That's actually a better shade. Yeah, it's better shading. Okay. All right, so more interesting shapes. Let's actually do this edge as well. Control B. And you can see that we have a problem here. Again, we have a manifold face here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to hit Control B to bevel that again. Control B. And now what's going to happen is the distance between these faces is shorter, so I can go in there and I can now go, okay, I just want to cut that. And I just want to cut that. So now I have this kind of interesting shape in here already. And now we can actually get rid of, dissolve those faces, and now I have this kind of interesting little shape in here. And I can also make it a little bit bigger by, you know, increasing the size, so that it just stands out a little bit more. And you know what? I think I also want to kind of go in here and maybe add some extra detail through here. Now, as you can see right here, we're getting a little bit of a lighting issue. That's just because, again, Blender is trying to calculate the lighting. So sometimes it's best to just go in there and kind of add a little bit of a cut in there so that it kind of just helps with Blender's calculations. But you are going to get that from time to time. You're going to get those little kind of like shading things. It just all depends on, from a distance, what you think, what you prefer. But you can usually get rid of it. Now, this is obviously like, if you want to fully get rid of this, it's almost impossible. But if you want to like reduce it, you can actually dissolve a lot of these faces. So if I go in here and say dissolve, now you can see it's just one flat face in there. And now it's calculating it a lot better because it's like, okay, well, now I don't have to calculate as much So I'm just going to make this one flat single face. All right, so that helps. So learning where to bevel these and where to detail them and things like that really does help with your stylized artwork. All right, and I don't need this edge or this edge, so I can dissolve those as well. And yeah. All right, so I kind of want to have, like I was just saying, I kind of want to have some detail in here. So let's press I. Okay. Let's bring that down. A little bit of detail like that. And let's actually select these edges and move them. And again, that's too much. That's too much stretching. So that's where all of your manifold is coming from. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's press these again. All right. GZ to go down. And keep going down to make an angle. And again, if you don't want it to be that deep, then just manually bevel it yourself. So just hit Control B to just have like a slight little bevel in there and bevel it yourself. Again, to get rid of this kind of stuff right here, we're going to have to kind of figure out what we want to dissolve to help. Okay. That helped with that. As you can see, that stretching, that big line that stretched through is actually gone, as you can see. And then maybe we can take these and, no, that didn't work. Let's hit K here. Again, sometimes you're going to get this. Sometimes you're going to get some weird faces. You know, it's not the end of the world. Just have to learn how to work with this kind of stuff. What you want to kind of help you. What you want to get rid of to kind of help you with all of this. And again, sometimes, you know, Blender's calculation is kind of off, so you just got to kind of help it out with just, you know, a little bit of cuts here and there. And again, if this isn't working, then you're going to have to change up your strategy for how you're going to build in the detail for this. So sometimes it comes in the form of, you know, messing around with the angle. Sometimes it comes in the form of messing around with the weighting. And there you go. Like just messing around with that weighting a little bit actually helped get rid of it and reduce all of those weird issues that we were just having. Okay. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select this, hit Shift A or Shift S, go to cursor to selected, and we're just going to hit Shift, add a cube, scale that down, hit 3, G, Y to move it on the Y scale, and I actually want this above. All the way to maybe here. All right, and then I want to hit Control A to reset the location, and then we're going to we're going to add a mirror modifier to that. Okay. And what I want to do is I actually want to, can we copy these? No, we can't copy these, but what we can do is we can just add them again. So add a bevel modifier to that. You don't always have to add a bevel modifier to everything. Again, in my case, it just looks better because I suck at modeling. And then we're going to add, again, a weighted normal to that. And again, you're going to get this auto smooth and object data properties needs to be enabled. So we can enable this. And I think it auto does all that for us, which is very nice. All right. And then we can bring this down. And the angle is too small for that. So let's just bring it back. Okay. And what I want to do for this is I actually want to add Shift S, cursor to selected, add a cylinder, and rotate that Y 90 degrees and just add it into here. And we were a little bit off, but that's okay. Control B. Just try to keep it fairly reasonably low. Okay, add that there. Control F, shade smooth. And let's bringeth this into here. And I also want to add, I don't want this to be too boring, so let's add a couple of, yeah, I think this distance will be okay. The reason why I just go like this instead of just sliding it up is because, I don't know, I never really know the distance of what I want. So I just kind of eyeball it with that for me. But it'll probably be better if you know, do it the right way. Okay. And then add another one through here. And you can see how easy this is. My God, this is so easy to do this. You're just adding detail and then dissolving and then adding detail and then dissolving. It's amazing how easy this is. How easy Blender makes this. Okay. Okay, I think maybe, is this? Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. Let's add some details onto this cylinder. Alt S to scale away from the normals. And then again, we're going to go into weighted, auto smooth, and add, again, a bevel. So bevel modifier. And we're almost done. It's not going to be that long. So we need to make sure that this is stacked properly, or else it's not going to look right. Okay. So if you want to actually unwrap this, it's kind of intimidating because like you're like, oh my God, I have all these bevels. It's so scary. But really, all you really have to do is just kind of go in here and just unwrap it like you normally would. So for hard objects like this, I usually just unwrap it using Smart UV Project, and that looks at all of the angles. So Smart angle limit, and you can go with 30 because that's usually like all of your bevel distance. Hit OK, and that's going to unwrap that. Same with this. You want to just go U, Smart angle limit of 30. And then this one as well. Cylinders are a little bit more difficult, but what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of unwrap it myself. Okay? So, and one of the things that I would highly suggest is just going in here and deleting the stuff that is not visible. So if you're making a game asset, you want to kind of think about how you're going to go about reducing polygon count. For anything that isn't really going to be visible, you want to actually just get rid of it. It's no bueno having it in the game if it's never going to be seen. It's not only like taking up texture space, but it's also taking up, you know, optimization, and you don't want that. So you want to actually fix that. All right. So Looks to me like we did get it right. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, cool. So everything below this line can be deleted. So we can just take this, delete, not dissolve, actually delete it, and then we can just go in here, Control, Shift, Alt, and then select all of these. This will make this piece extremely easy to unwrap. Okay. Why do I keep going to dissolve? Right. Oops. There we go. So now we should have. It shouldn't be hovering. That's definitely one thing we don't want. Okay, perfect. This as well, you don't want things hovering. You don't want faces that are needless. So we're just going to grab these faces on the bottom. And I'm actually just going to go up until I see it kind of peek over. And then I'm just going to delete it. There we go. And I want to actually UV this again since we deleted that face. And then this as well, oops, smart. Same for this, just go in, smart, unwrap. So now that everything is unwrapped, we actually want to apply these. So you're going to want to apply the bevel before you apply the weighted normal. So, I mean, that's a given because the normals are the thing that you are going to export. So another thing, this is extremely important, and I should have actually did this before. I should have said this before. This is actually very, 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 very important. Do not export this and let Blender triangulate it on export. The reason why this is bad is because you will lose your normals, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of this right now. So if we export this as it is, if we go to export and we go to export object and we go to smoothing groups, even though we do the smoothing groups and all that, and we go triangulated mesh, let's export it to the desktop. Let's just name it blah. Okay. And then selected objects only and apply the modifiers and then hit export. All right. So if we actually find that object on our desktop named blah, and we go into this 3D viewer on Windows, you can see that our normals are now jacked up. They are extremely jacked up. So in order to keep your normals perfect when you export out of Blender for this sort of thing, see how messed up that is? That is absolutely disgusting. Okay? So the most important thing you want to do is you want to triangulate this via your modifier, your triangulation modifier. Now, as you can see, this is essentially what it's doing when you export. It's applying triangulation after you've already applied your normals. That's bad. What you want to do is you want to actually put it up here. You can say keep normals, but again, it's not going to work that well, okay? So we're also going to keep the normals just in case, all right? So we're going to bevel, then triangulate, then normal, okay? Do that for every single one of these, all right? Bevel, triangulate, then normal. Bevel, triangulate, then normal, okay? That is extremely important. Now you can export it because you triangulated it, okay? So if we go to export, we go to wavefront object, we call it blah again. Blah. And now we want to actually turn off normals. Okay, we don't want to write the normal. Actually, no, we do want to write the normal. I was referring to smoothing groups. We don't want to allow the smoothing groups. Or maybe we do. Actually, you know what? Let's just test it out. We definitely don't want it to triangulate. All right, because we just did that. Selection only and export. All right, let's test to see what the right normals and right smoothing groups did. And there you have it. So writing smoothing groups and writing the normals didn't do shit. All right. But I would highly suggest maybe going in there and kind of doing a little bit better on the cylinder part. Cylinders are always weird when it comes to normals. It didn't do too bad, but as you can see, you have a pretty good low poly mesh. that you can now kind of work with. You have a lot of cool details on it. And stuff like that, you know? It's got all of our fixes, all of our edits, and if we go in here and we look at the triangulation, you can see that it's fairly low. It's not that high res, but it looks like it's nice and high res. And you can use this, and if we check all of the UVs, so if I actually hit Shift D to duplicate that, so we want to actually combine these UVs, all right? So what I'm going to do is, how do you apply all of the modifiers again? There's like an option where you can like hit apply all, but for some reason I don't have it in my Blender, which is really weird because it was in there and now it's not. All right, but let's just apply all of these. All right. So apply, apply, apply. And I always duplicate this off when I'm doing this because if I ever want to refer back to my mesh, then I still have it. All right. So it's extremely important. All right. And we hit Control J to put all of those into the same group. As you can see, we still have our normals. This is still kind of wonky because of the triangulation. Oh well. It's not too bad. And then we can go in here and we can go to our UV editing. And this is our UVs as it is now, but now we need to pack these UVs. So we're just going to go with light matte pack. Actually, no. No, we just want to pack the UVs. So is there a way to actually pack? Where are you? Pack. I forget how to do this. It's been so long. But you could pretty much do this inside of any pack UVs. Pack them. There we go. This is a part of the, I think this is a part of the Magic UV stuff they add on. So you just go to your preferences and your add-ons and then look for the Magic UV add-on. I believe that's a part of it. If not, then it should be in there via Blender version. I think it's 3.2 now. Yeah, so it's right there. And now we just packed it, so now everything is nice and neat, and our bevels have been applied. So as you can see, there's our bevels right there. So everything has been applied. We have UVs, we have bevels, we have all of that good stuff. And we can go to export, export the object, selection only, blah, export, and we are done. And we're ready for texturing, right? So now you can bring this inside of Substance Painter. You can sit there and you can put decals on it. You can put all kinds of crazy stuff on it. And you now have yourself a sci-fi stylized asset that you can now put inside of your game. All right. I'm sorry that this video took so long, but it's really hard to explain all of this information coherently in like a 2-minute clip. It's really tough to do that. So yeah, I hope that this video wasn't too long. I hope that you got a lot of information from it. If you did, please hit the like. Please comment down below if you have any questions, or if you have any useful information for the community, have any crits or whatever you have, please leave it down below. All right. I'm always listening and learning from you guys as well. All right. So take care, guys. Bye.